I have it.
Eve!
Look out!
The first civilization, or Isu as they called themselves, were a race of hypersentient precursor beings that predate our own civilization by many thousands of years. A technologically advanced species, they created the artifacts that the Assassins and the Templars have fought and puzzled over for generations. They also created the human race as a reliable source of slave labor, an inconvenient truth that has all but disappeared from our collective memory. Around 75,000 BCE, a war between the Isu and the humans broke out. It was a conflict that threatened to destroy both groups, were it not for a deadly solar flare that enveloped the Earth, triggering a mass extinction event. Following this catastrophe, the Isu were wiped out, a victim of their own frailties and over-reliance on technology. Over thousands more years, the remaining human tribes grew and thrived, and as they did, they began to puzzle over the strange artifacts and archaeological remains left behind by their forebears. Little did these humans know that the Isu were never far away, for contained within the genes of a small percentage of them were traces of Isu DNA. As human culture evolved, so too did its stories about the Isu. Like an endless game of telephone, the historical fact of the first civilization transformed into the fanciful tales of the pagan gods. In fact, most of what we call mythology today is a reinterpretation of actual events from the Isu era. If only there was some way to separate fact from the fiction of these wild stories. As it turns out, there it is. Built by Abstergo Industries in the latter half of the 20th century, the Animus is a device that allows its users to extract and explore the embedded ancestral memories found in all human DNA. Early versions of the Animus limited its users by giving them access to the ancestral memories found in their own genes. More recent versions now allow people to investigate the memories found in any harvested strand of DNA, no matter its source. Because this genetic memory is fixed, users of the Animus are not free to interpret history in any way they see fit. Rather, they must synchronize with the genetic memory to ensure a more complete picture of the past. But full synchronization is not always possible, and many gaps often remain open. As one would expect with such advanced technology, operating an Animus is not always an easy task, and the long-term psychological effects can be profoundly disorienting or deadly. In some cases, prolonged exposure to ancestral memories has been known to trigger a so-called bleeding effect, a situation where the memories of one or many ancestors begin to overlap and intermingle with one's own. And yet, as is the case with most advanced technologies, the rewards often outweigh the risks of use. With all of human history now open to us, who wouldn't want to dig into the past and uncover its secrets? The first assassin order was created as the Hidden Ones by Bayek and Aya in Egypt in the 1st century BC. Their purpose was crystal clear: to combat oppressive regimes and secure humankind's right to self-determination. Since their inception, they have toiled in the background of history, working in the dark to serve the light. Today, the assassins organize themselves into regional cells and operate from hidden bureaus. Assassin recruits are often referred to as initiates, and as they climb ranks, they become assassins, master assassins, and in rare cases, a mentor. But the assassins do not manipulate the threads of history unopposed, for there is another shadowy organization lurking in the darkness. Originally called the Order of the Ancients, the modern-day Templar Order is a secretive organization that lurks in the cracks of history, manipulating human endeavors to enforce a strict and orderly vision of society to ensure peace and security for all. The Templars are typically led by a Grand Master and often organize themselves into rites. You may have heard of some of these offshoots: the Illuminati, the Hospitallers, or the Knights Templar. In order to maintain their control over the populace, the Templars think big. They have been known to manipulate entire economies, elect puppet politicians, or put corrupt popes in the Vatican, as they did with Rodrigo Borgia in the 15th century. But the Templars' manipulations are not limited to human affairs, for they have intimate knowledge of many strange and mysterious artifacts left behind by a precursor civilization. Artifacts which have been known to exude a broad influence over the human mind and body. Called Pieces of Eden, this ancient technology has been used by the Templars for a variety of purposes: to heal, to resurrect, to relive ancient memories, or induce painful hallucinations. It all began in the year 2012 with a young man named Desmond Miles, a humble bartender living in New York, searching for his place in this world. One day, Desmond was kidnapped by agents of Abstergo Industries, a 20th century incarnation of the very powerful Templar Order. Abstergo had discovered that Desmond was someone special, that his DNA contained the ancestral memories of a number of important assassins from the distant past. Eager to search these memories for lost pieces of Eden, Abstergo forced Desmond into an animus and compelled him to relive the life of a 12th century assassin named Altair ibn La'ahad.
The 12th century. In the aftermath of the Third Crusade, the Assassins and Templars are at war. They clash over the city of Masyaf and a piece of Eden object known as an apple with the ability to control the minds of men. Desmond's assassin ancestor, Altair, is sent to obtain the apple in Solomon's tomb, but violates key tenets of the assassin order and fails his task. Disgraced, Altair is sent on a mission of redemption by his master, Al-Mualim, and is tasked with killing 9 corrupt individuals across the land. Altair eliminates his targets one by one, slowly realizing that they are all high-ranking Templar agents. Falling to Altair, Robert, the leader of the Knights Templars, confesses that there are actually 10 Templars in the know. The 10th is Al-Mualim himself, who, wanting control of the apple, tricked Altair into searching for it. Betrayed, Altair returns to Masyaf to discover that his fellow assassins have been enslaved. Al-Mualim uses the apple in an attempt to bring the known world under his control. Altair, immune to the apple's effects, confronts and kills his master. Altair retrieves the apple and is shown the location of 28 pieces of Eden scattered around the world. This is the memory Abstergo is looking for. With his master dead, Altair assumes control of his Brotherhood of Assassins and starts a family while expanding the reach of his order. Returning to Masyaf after a long absence, Altair discovers his rival Abbas has seized control of the Assassin Order. Fueled by rage, Altair lashes out against Abbas with the apple, accidentally killing his wife. Crushed by his own aggression, Altair goes into exile. Decades later, an elderly Altair returns to Masyaf once more, determined to liberate his people from Abbas's control. This time, Altair kills Abbas, takes control of Masyaf, and builds a library deep beneath his city. The keys to the library are sent to a distant land, and Altair seals himself inside along with the Apple of Eden and a final message for his heirs. Back at Abstergo, Desmond is brought out of the Animus and determined to be of no more use to the Templars. Lucy Stillman, an undercover assassin posing as an Abstergo scientist, frees Desmond, sparing his life. She tells Desmond about a bleeding effect that will allow him to learn his ancestors' powers. Using Altair's eagle vision, Desmond discovers some crazy messages from previous captive Subject 16 written in blood all over the walls, foretelling the end of the world in 2012. Whoa. Escaping Abstergo, Desmond and Lucy link up with 2 other assassins, Sean and Rebecca. The crew convinces Desmond to use their new Animus 2.0 to relive the memories of another ancestral assassin and obtain skills through the bleeding effect in 2012. Desmond agrees and is zapped to Renaissance Italy, the 15th century, home to assassin Ezio Auditore, a lover and a fighter. When Ezio's father and brothers are falsely accused of a crime and publicly executed, Ezio vows revenge. On his quest to vindicate his family, Ezio uncovers a Templar conspiracy involving the Vatican. With the help of his uncle Mario, Leonardo da Vinci, and Niccolo Machiavelli, Ezio identifies the conspirators, all linked to the wealthy Spanish Borgia family, and assassinates them one by one. During the resulting battles across Europe, Ezio acquires another Apple of Eden, crossing paths with Templar leader Rodrigo Borgia. Through some especially bloody political maneuvering, Rodrigo is declared Pope Alexander VI in an attempt to lead the Templars to a fabled vault hidden in Vatican City. Ezio and his allies discover Rodrigo controls a piece of Eden known as the Staff, which is pretty much just what it sounds like. Ezio then travels to Rome, fistfights the Pope, and takes the Staff. Using his apple and the Staff, Ezio enters the vault. His entry triggers a holographic recording from Minerva, a member of the first civilization, which was a far more advanced society that existed along with humans on Earth. Back then, some type of global catastrophe nearly wiped out all life on Earth. Minerva, speaking through Ezio's memories directly to Desmond, warns of another impending doom. Desmond and Ezio's minds are blown. Back in 2012, Desmond is yanked from the Animus by his allies who are forced to flee their safe house with the Templars hot on their heels. The new goal: find Ezio's Apple of Eden and more evidence of Minerva's prophecy. But where to look? In the aftermath of Pope versus Assassin, Ezio flees Rome. Rodrigo's son, Cesare Borgia, declares open war on the assassins, and fueled by the French forces of the Baron de Valois, mounts an all-out assault on Ezio's headquarters. The siege scatters the assassin forces, claims the life of Ezio's uncle, and brings the apple back under Templar control. Forced to rebuild the Brotherhood, Ezio brings in new alliances and acquires intel on Cesare and his allies. Piece by piece, man by man, Ezio kills Cesare's powerful allies, Juan Borgia and the Baron de Valois, stripping the power-hungry Templar of his military and financial resources. Family drama unfolds, and Cesare is ultimately arrested when he tries to take Rome by force. With the apple secured again, Ezio places it in the Roman Colosseum, its intended final resting place. Watching through the Animus, Desmond figures out where to go. He acquires the apple in a labyrinth beneath the Colosseum and receives another First Civilization message. Juno reiterates Minerva's warning and goes a step further, possessing Desmond and forcing him to kill Lucy, who it turns out is a Templar double agent. Overwhelmed by the ancient energy and his prolonged stay in the Animus, Desmond collapses into a coma, seemingly lost forever. With Lucy dead and Desmond in a coma, a senior member of the Assassin Order steps out of the shadows. Desmond's father, William Miles, teams up with Rebecca and Sean to recover his son's mind. William hopes that by sending Desmond back into the Animus, they can pull him out of his coma. Within the Animus, Desmond meets Subject 16, the bloody finger painter from Abstergo. 16 tells Desmond to revisit the twilight years of Ezio and Altair, and that only by separating the two in his mind will he wake up from his coma. Desmond learns that he isn't the first to pursue the memories of his ancestors. Ezio did as well. As a young Suleiman the Wise enters a power struggle with his uncles, Ahmet and Selim, Ezio journeys to Constantinople, tracking down the keys to Altair's lair amidst the turmoil.
No books. No wisdom. Just you, fratello mio. Requiescat in pace, Altair. You have seen to my books.
Yes. Some we sent with the Polos. The rest will go with me to Alexandria.
Good. Very good.
Father, I do not understand. Why did you build a library if you did not intend to keep your books?
You should go. When the Mongols return, Masyaf must be empty.
I see. This is not a library at all. It is a vault.
It must stay hidden, Darim. Far from eager hands. At least until it has passed on the secret it contains.
What secret?
Go, son. Go be with your family. And live well.
All that is good in me began with you, Father.
If you are asked, say I sent the apple away. Tell them I sent it to Cyprus, or Cipango, or that I dropped it into the sea. Tell them anything to keep men away from this place. This apple must not be found. Not until the time is right. Another artifact.
will stay here. I have seen enough for one life. Desmond?
He's talking to me?
I heard your name once before, Desmond. A long time ago. And now it lingers in my mind, like an image from an old dream. I do not know where you are, or by what means you can hear me. But I know you are listening. I have lived my life as best I could, not knowing its purpose, but drawn forward like a moth to a distant moon. And here at last, I discover a strange truth. That I am only a conduit for a message that eludes my understanding. Who are we, who have been so blessed to share our stories like this? To speak across centuries. Maybe you will answer all the questions I have asked. Maybe you will be the one to make all this suffering worth something in the end. Now, listen.
Do you hear me, Cypher? Can you see me? Ah, there you are. Good. A strange place, this nexus of time. I am not used to the calculations. That has always been Minerva's domain. I see you still have many questions. Who were we? What became of us? What do we desire of you? You will have your answers. Only listen, and I will tell you how. Both before the end and after, we sought to save the world. We built vaults within which to work, each dedicated to a different method of salvation. They were placed underground to avoid the war which raged above, and also as a precaution should we fail in our efforts. Each vault's knowledge was transmitted to a single place. It was our duty, mine, Minerva's, and Juno's, to sort and sample all that was collected. We chose those solutions which held the most promise, and devoted ourselves to testing their merits. 6 we tried in succession, each more encouraging than the last, but none worked. And then the world ended. earth shook for days, the fires burned for weeks, and when the ash had settled, less than 10,000 of your kind still lived, and far fewer of ours. But we carried on, together, to rebuild, to renew. Listen, you must go there, to the place where we labored and lost. Take my words, pass them from your head into your hands. That is how you will open the way. But be warned, much still remains in flux, and I do not know how things will end, either in my time or yours.
Wait, look, his vitals are stabilizing. Something's happening. He's moving.
Desmond, can you hear me? Son?
I know what we need to do.
Must determine whether Americans are to be free men or slaves. Our cruel and unrelenting enemy leaves us only the choice of brave resistance or the most abject submission. We have, therefore, to resolve to conquer or